welcome, Mr. Bedassie, as always.
Good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
So the theme of our show today, deviant or deprived?
Well, I think deprivation has led to some of the deviant behavior we have seen. We have deprived our young people from a lot of positive examples. We have deprived them from love. We have deprived them from stable home environments, and so on. And there's research that tells us that 95% of young people who are involved in deviant or offending behavior would have experienced some kind of trauma in their life. And that trauma could come from violence in the home, where there's domestic violence between the mother and the father. It could come from a home where alcohol is used, without any kind of control, and you may have a father or mother who is alcoholic or abuser of drugs, whether it's a substance abuse or hardcore drugs like let's say marijuana or cocaine. And we have to understand that the young people, they only live what they see.
Let me just take a pin for a second. Now, let's say, and I really want to break it down.
Yeah.
So you outlined the environment of where these things can be bred.
Yeah.
So I'm a child and I'm sitting and I'm looking at mommy and daddy fighting. Or I'm looking at daddy drinking or smoking, whatever. Or they're beating me relentlessly for every little thing.
Yeah.
What goes on in the child's mind? Because again, what you're seeing is obviously something negative.
Yes.
It is not good.
Yes.
Within, let's say, the surface of your mind, you know that, hey, there's nothing good about this. But then, after internalizing it, they go and do the same thing. What goes on in a child's mind, even though they know that's wrong, but they still end up doing the same thing or even worse? What do they think?
Some people could recognize that it's wrong.
Right.
And there are others who say, well, if daddy is doing this, then this is the correct way to deal with situations. Or if mommy is doing it. I was at a school sometime last year where a principal called for some help. And I went there, and there were two young men who were involved in offending behavior. One was a fighter, and the other one, he obviously language was his first language.
Right.
Let me put it like that. Because the principal told me he doesn't care who is around. The principal, sir, miss, whoever. And he's only 11 years.
Wow.
And the boy who's fighting, he's 12. The both of them are standard 5. And the principal was having some issues in dealing with those two particular boys, among a host of other boys at the school. And I asked her, I said, give me a few minutes. I'd like to speak to each child individually. And the older boy, who's 12 and who's fighting, I asked him, I said, why are you becoming involved in violent behavior? And that young man looked at me straight in the eye and he said, I have problems. I said, what problems do you have? He said, my father beats my mother every day, and I want to fix him. But he can't fix that.
So his rage is coming out of a place of
it
defense.
Originated somewhere. And he
wants, he needs to be this way.
Yeah, and he really wants to deal with the father. But what they did, they took him out of that house, and they sent him to live with his grandmother. But while he's there, his mind is still on what's happening at home with mommy. And then this 11-year-old boy who curses everybody. He curses the 12-year-old about his mother.
Wow.
So that triggers off something in the mind of the 12-year-old boy. Now, the 11-year-old boy told me, he said, Daddy comes home drunk every day. And when he's drunk, he beats everybody and curses everybody in the house. Now, those two boys seeing that and experiencing that almost on a daily basis, they're not going to throw off that at the school gate when they reach at the school and say, listen, I'm going to put all that behind me and I'm going to go to school and be this exemplary child.
Because that has become locked now in their DNA.
Yes.
That has become part of them.
And we have hundreds of children that leave homes like these on a daily basis, whether they're going to school or wherever they go, in their interaction with other people. They have not been an environment where they have learned to socialize properly, communicate properly, and all of those things. So there are homes where boys and girls don't even know, basic manners like good morning or good afternoon. They get up, they walk out the house, they go about their own business, come back when they want. You know, and this happens with, I'm telling you about teenagers, 13, 12, 14, yeah.
And if you look, I ever so often use this analogy, if you look at the soil, I mean, what we plant into these children is what's going to come forth, you know.
Yeah, and we only take notice of these things when it reaches a place where it becomes a situation where they have broken the law. But this kind of behavior people have been seeing it in their homes, and they have left it unchecked.
We ignore it. That's it. We ignore the weeds that are, you know, we look, again, that's why, and we have, and I'm going back to this issue with the Diego Martin North Secondary School with the girls, and I think we have it there now, whereby everyone is born with purpose. Everyone. But the thing is, you have these weeds that are growing up around them, and we are so focused on, you know, about our own business, and we're not tending to these children as we should.
Yes.
And it's killing our children daily. Now, my next point, girls. You're hearing more about girls now. At least in terms of what's on the news. I'm sure there's a lot more that's not reported. But Diego Martin North, the B-Mobile situation, well, not B-Mobile, sorry, the Trinity Mall with the 4 girls. Then we have the 16-year-old who stabbed the man, and the first thing someone here told me was that, what if that was a case when the man was trying to have sex with the girl? No, we don't know. But again, we don't know what would have prompted this 16-year-old to go after this man. But I'm just simply saying, something is triggering our girls to react the way they are. And I'm telling you from personal experience, that there are several young women who I know who are big women now, and at least I'm being honest with you. I think out of every one out of every, let's say, 10 women I would have interacted with, whether it's true in the church ministry, outside church, whatever, I was abused. I was abused. Do we really know the number of women that may have really been abused in this country?
Well, I think in this society that we live in now, we tend to cover up a lot of those issues. And sometimes we think that abuse is just sexual abuse. But there are wider range, there's a wider range of factors that could be termed as abuse. And even with that 16-year-old girl, without being presumptuous.
No, again, this is just, we just say, what could have
triggered? Those are some of the factors that you have to look at in trying to figure out what would have caused that. And the other thing is, what is a 16-year-old girl doing home in daytime when she should probably have been in school or in some kind of program that would occupy her in a constructive manner? And these are some of the things, because we have a lot of young people.
Investigators will ask as the truth comes out.
And we have there are a lot of situations in this country where we are not occupying our young people in the kinds of ways that we should, that would place them on a positive growth path. So one of the things that we have to address is the education system. Because there are a lot of, some years ago we started this thing where we were sending all children to secondary school. And some of them are definitely not ready.
For that,
When you look at the SCA, for example, you have students who gain 75 and 80% and maybe going to what we call the secondary school, not the prestige schools. And then when they decided that they're going to put all children into secondary school, you had people with at 30%, consistently at 30, 40%, being placed in classrooms with some of the same people who are getting 75 and 80%. And then when they can't cope, they drop out of school, they become involved in deviant behavior, and different kinds of things. We had a program, Saving Our Sons had a program recently in the Bonner area, and it's called Parents, the Real Crime Stoppers. And there was a lecturer from the University of the West Indies, and during the question and answer period of the forum, he made a very salient point. We have approximately 18 to 19 children, 1,000 children writing the SEA annually, and by the time they get to CSEC, or what we call CXC, it's about 10% of children from that 18 or 19,000 that is missing. So you have 18 to 19,000 writing SEA, and you have 10% less writing the CSEC or CXC examination. Where has that 10% gone? They're out of school, or they end up in the criminal justice system. So what we are doing, and one of the contributing factors, is that we have created what I call the school to prison pipeline. And some of the behaviors that you would see on the media and so on, children smoking, doing drugs in school, alcohol, we have prostitution going on in our schools. And those in authority seems to bury their heads when it comes to some of these issues.
Anytime you challenge, and I realize, and I want you to tell us more about that program, but anytime I realize you challenge anyone about the education system, particularly if they are from a particular era, you are met up with an offense.
Yes.
You know, a defensive approach, I mean, because what we're seeing right now, and a lot of memes and cartoons that show it, is like they're just grinding stuff into your brain and just regurgitate and you spit it back out. And nothing is really absorbed for future growth. Because what we're seeing here now is more regurgitation of information, but not necessarily education. Right?
Well, we have also not managed the advancement in technology well with regards to our young people. And the fact is that they see a lot of these things that they practice on the internet, and these electronic devices have become a babysitting tool in our society now. So your child tells you he's bored or she's bored, you give him a tablet or a phone or iPad or
they're
iPod.
Babysitting our children.
And then we're not seeing that what they're exposed to through these devices. So what you think is free babysitting, you're going to pay a big cost for it later on when they start to inculcate some of these things. I was reading an article recently where this young woman in the United States, she participated in anal sex, and it damaged her physically, so much so that she could never become pregnant in life again. But what happened is that she has been seeing all this pornography, looking at it on the internet, and choose these electronic devices, and then they want to practice what they see. So we had to be careful about all of these things. The girls is a serious issue, and I'm not sure if we are paying enough attention to what is happening to our young women. We have more and more young women coming into the criminal justice system as offenders. It has become so bad that they are now sentencing young women to what is called the Youth Transformation and Rehabilitation Center, which is a female section of YTC. They started off with 4 girls. They are now about 14.
How much? 14 or 14?
1-4.
1-4, okay.
And that is just in a matter of a couple of months. And it is going to grow.
And
because when we look at some of the things that we're seeing.
Their attitude is, well, their crimes, quote unquote, it's that bad.
Well, as you spoke about deviant, 7 of those girls were at St. Jude's. They had become so violent. And you may have seen the story some months ago, where they attacked the staff, and the staff had to lock themselves in a room and fend for themselves while these girls tore the place up. So they had to send them to another place, and they sent them to the Youth Transformation and Rehabilitation Center. Now, when you look at drug use in schools, I went to one school, and I believe I spoke about it here before. I went to a school right in South Trinidad here, and the principal said they're smelling the marijuana all day, and they can't find it. So they started searching the boys on a morning, and they were still not finding the marijuana. But they were smelling it all day until somebody told them to search the girls. And the girls were bringing it in the hems of their skirts and in their underwears.
And just to clarify, they're bringing it in for their own use, because sometimes you hear that they use as mules for the boys, but in this case, they're bringing it in for their own use.
For their own use as well as for the young men.
Okay, all right.
So we have to pay some close attention to our young women. You take a random walk through any of our towns or the 2 cities, and just observe what is happening at the rum shops and the bars. We had never seen young women in bars and rum shop like this.
That is very true.
We have never seen it. And the amount of alcohol that they can consume also. It is not a social drink or casual drink.
Now we say young woman. Now the reason why I'm asking this, because I remember I was in Point Fortin sometime about a year ago, doing one of our interviews about the Point Fortin Hospital. And just casually, this woman passed someone who was interviewing, and she, from what the guy told me, she's always in the bar or the playroom booth, because that is her way of hustling and getting money. Because the father not around and whoever, so this is what she does. She'll go and she'll tax men, or she will go in the way booth. Now that's one example. But then you have the younger woman, and that's what she does. But then they have the young woman who would sell their bodies. And then you have those who are just looking for a father figure. So are we seeing a trend here again of absent fathers and absent husbands? And
you see, that example that you gave there, right? Like if we look at that scenario, it's a different level of prostitution.
That's what I'm saying.
Because these men are not expending their money on you without getting back something in return. Then some of these women take these men into their homes. And then we have situations where these men start to interact with their daughters in the same kind of manner, or sometimes they abuse these girls sexually, and some of these girls get raped. And when a girl sees a mother coming into the house ever so often, and with one or two or three men, this is the lifestyle that she's growing up in. These are the examples that she's seeing.
And in her eyes, if this fed me, if this took me to school, if this provided what I needed for a daily basis,
then I might as well. That's exactly what I'm saying. So that we have to look at the examples that we are setting in our home. Some time ago, there was this boy that we had allowed to call home, and he's talking to his mom on the phone. And the rule is that we need to hear what's happening. So the phone is on speaker, and
this is at YTC.
At YTC,
right?
And the young man is talking to his mother, and he has a voice in the background, and he asks, he said, "Mommy, who's that?" She says, "That's your aunt." He said, "Let me talk to her." So he's like, "Auntie, what you all doing?" She said, "Boy, your mother and I now light up a piece of ganja and smoking it here." Now, after that young man spending 3 or 4 years at YTC, where we have tried to take him through various interventions. He's now
going back into that.
He's going back right where he started off. That is the way of life for that family. And sometimes it's not just at that home. Sometimes the community, the entire community. That's the way of life. So what do we expect from these young men?
It's like a vicious cycle that some of them just, it's a challenge to come out.
Yeah, because I was at a debate on Tuesday between a group of incarcerated men and some criminal justice students from the University of Trinidad and Tobago. And the argument was whether whether people are criminals by birth, or whether we make them into criminals. So whether they are criminals by nature, or whether we nurture them. And there was no way that they could have won the argument that people are born criminals. No one was born a criminal. But because of the things that we do, the society that we have created, the way things are evolving, we are actually nurturing criminals. We are nurturing people with deviant behavior. And we have to take a closer look at the way we live, the way we recreate, the way we train our young people, and the kind of investment we make.
And that's the point you made in the beginning. If we continue to feed, and there's a comment somebody put here, and I want to deal with that comment after the breaker. If we continue to feed negative things into our children, like if you continue to feed the good soil that we plant our children in when we give them, we try to give a good foundation, then at some point the weed is going to overgrow the flowers and overgrow and outgrow what the good. So all we're seeing now is just the bad that's coming out.
Listen, I have a good friend, and we are laborers in the vineyard together. Cassio Anthony, better known as Gen X, right?
Of course.
And his mother was telling me the story about him. And he was involved in a lot of deviant behavior. And people were saying nothing good was going to come out of him. But she told me, she said, when he came home, when he came to the house, and he was displaying deviant behavior, she would say, "Come here, preacher."
She spoke into his life.
"Come here, teacher."
Wow.
Today, he's a leading preacher, teacher, one of the top life skills coaches in our country.
And I can say this publicly. I interviewed Gen X very early on when we started our television program through the church, that's Stone Open Bible Church, and he gave a testimony that it got so bad, and he was open about it, as I can say it. He said that he actually, at one time, I think it was his brother or somebody, he held him over
with a rope.
With a rope. To kill him. And he was ready to do it. And it's his same mother. He even attempted to kill his own mom. His own mother, That's right.
So
and
we have to be careful about
his mother as well.
We have to be careful about what we speak into the lives of our young people, what we demand from them. And we are quick to condemn young people. But when you look around the society, we see some of the older people, the things that they do. Just now in March, 4th and 5th, we're going to have what is called the greatest show on earth. And our young women are going to be on the streets half naked. But on Ash Wednesday, if we see a young lady dressed like that, we want to demonize her.
It suddenly becomes wrong.
You understand?
Yeah.
So we need to set some better examples for young people.
Is that it wrong?
Yeah.
Or it right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also need to hold our young people responsible for their actions. Now, I believe in the right of the child, and I believe in the right of every other human being. All right? And we have a lot of rights. But as human beings, we have 30 basic rights. And human right number 29, and people could look it up, it tells of the right to be responsible. So in all your freedom and the rights that you have to be responsible for your actions, you have to be responsible for your speech, you have to be responsible for your thoughts, you have to be responsible for everything that you do. So whatever you're doing, do it responsibly. And if we were to act responsible, and if the adults would hold our young people accountable and make them be responsible for all their actions, we're going to have a better society.
So we're just going to go through a couple of comments here quickly. Well, of course, it's an interesting program. Thank you very much. On our WhatsApp, someone is saying, now, hear me, eh? Deviant or deprive? They deprive of some good licks, if you ask me. The Word of God says about spare the rod and spoil the child. But there is a big difference between discipline and abuse.
Yes.
And a lot of times as parents, when our children get into deviant behavior, that line is a very easy to cross. Am I right or am I wrong?
That's right, and because the line is very thin. And we have a lot of parents that have abused children under the guise of discipline.
Yeah.
I could tell you of a young man. He some issue. His mom took a can of peas and threw it after him from the kitchen. Cut away his nose. On another occasion, she took a broom and hit him on his head. He's 18 now, and that mark is still there.
Constant
and he still
reminder.
talks about it. He has been going through counseling from 12 years old to now he's 18 and still going through counseling, trying to deal with that situation. It had gotten so bad at one time that he actually called Childline. So these are some of the situations that we have to be careful about. We cannot let it be a situation where the first thing we do is pick up some weapon and try to deal with our children. There are many different ways, and some of the things that we have given to our children have contributed more to them being deviant, displaying deviant behavior, and we have refused to take away some of those things.
Let me read this comment now. This person sent in a comment a couple of days ago, and they sent another one today, but along the same lines. And
Yes.
hear what they're saying. They said, "Shalom, good evening." And well, this person said how my mother taught them in school, and because of her love for teaching and children, I'm a good person today. This is someone who, my mom was a teacher. With the help of my mother, with this thing with kids killing themselves is a plan of the devil. So that was during a suicide situation was going through a couple, about a month or so ago. We, the foundation, we must rebuild and put God back in schools. If we can talk about God, we could talk about God's love. And with this program, we could get into schools. If you get into schools to share the love of God, I'll be there with you more than ever. He's saying today now, again, I say we need God and love back in our schools. Teachers sometimes, they are a good person that could speak love into some of these children. So he's saying that take the message in the schools, give the teachers the support that they need to speak love as well, because sometimes they leave home and nobody speaks love into their lives. And they're coming in school hoping that the teachers will speak love. But some teachers also, it's tough to cope as well. Some do it.
Well,
some do it.
Sheldon, I was at a PTA meeting some time ago, maybe a couple of months ago. And the principal of the school she said something that has stuck with me and I will never forget it for the rest of my life. She said, children who get love at home come to school to learn. But those who don't get love at home, they will come in school and do anything to get to something that comes closest to the resemblance of love. And we have a situation now in schools where teachers spend more time mentoring children, putting them in the right kind of mindset and so on, to focus on the education and left with little time to teach. So we have, and that's what I said earlier, we have been depriving our young people of love.
We have a caller from Malik Barataria. Malik, a pleasant good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have a question for the gentleman, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the side of you. I hear he was talking about prostitution for the young students and them who go into school.
Yeah.
I have a 14-year-old daughter, but she's very disrespectful. So I try line the youth group and everything, but I find nothing not working. Can you give me some assistance? Where should I go next?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
I'll have to.
Nothing.
No problem. Thank you, of course. Thank you, Malik. So let me know exactly what she said. She said she has a 14-year-old daughter. And when you spoke about the prostitution, I guess she's a bit concerned for her daughter. She's given a lot of trouble. She said she has called Childline. She has called everyone. Nothing seems to be working. She's very disrespectful. I don't know if you can call back off air, ma'am, and probably leave your phone number, please, if you're still listening. But basically, she has thrown her hands in the air and she wants to know where to turn, what to do, because nothing seems to be working. She has a 14-year-old daughter.
Well, so then, some of these situations are not easy to deal with, especially a parent, when you have these kind of issues with your child, who you have all these hopes and aspirations for, who you have invested all that you could into this child, and then this child began to this. But sometimes there was a young man, and I must share a story. At the YTC government school, we had a number of young men that had become an issue or challenge for us. And the staff, they would tell me, Mr. Bedassie, you know, we have to remove these boys from the school because they're disruptive. And I said, listen, give me a list of the boys who have been posing challenges. I want to speak with them individually. And this is one of the things we need to take time. And I want to encourage that mother to create an atmosphere at your home where that child believes, one, that she could trust you. Two, that she could come to you and talk about anything.
How does she create this atmosphere? Because for her, I think she wants to know how. Like,
well, one of the things that we have done is that we have become too adversarial with our children at home. So when the child does something, the first thing we want to punish. We don't, or the school call and says your child got into a fight. You don't take time to listen to that child and hear what has been the two sides of the story and so on. So these are some of the things that we do. Try to have a conversation with your child every day, rather than only when that child does something wrong and then you pull out the big stick. And I do that with my son. I try to have a conversation with him every day. He's 18 now. Some days he would talk to me, some days he wouldn't. But then 2 weeks later, he would come back on his own and raise back up one of the issues that we were trying to discuss.
Because those nuggets would stay.
Yes.
They would stay.
So you have to create that atmosphere, make them do what you could to make them know and understand that they could come to you at any time. But this young man, one particular young man, and I spoke to him about some of the issues that the staff had complained about at the school with him. He said to me, he said, Mr. Bedassie, he said, that's an issue for you and your officers, you know. He said, that's not an issue for me.
Serious?
Yeah. So whatever were classified as offending behavior in the school, he says that's not really an issue for him. I said, so what's your issue? He said, my issue is I don't want to live anymore. So compare that with a young man in school who doesn't want to live. He's contemplating a lot of things in his mind, ways which he could end his life, because he doesn't see any sense of hope
and purpose
for his life. All right? So compare that with he may have gotten into a fight with a boy, or he comes to school without a book or a pencil. And we make that into a big issue. But really and truly in his mind and his heart, he has bigger issues. So we have to learn to engage our young people rather than confront them. And when we engage, we would get information, they would provide us with the information, and then we could look for some help in terms of dealing with these issues. But do not let it be an issue where a young man or a young woman cannot come to you and express what they're going through, and then so that you could come up with ways to help this young person. Because they may be younger than us, but a lot of them have the very same issues or bigger issues than we have as an adult.
Wow. I think we have just, yes, it's heavy, I know, but it's something that, again, we have to tackle heads on. I mean, I've been hearing so many horror stories in various schools, homes. And the funny thing is, I had a conversation today with one of the directors at the Children's Authority, you know, about something. And she was making a point to me that you would not believe in how many of she said it as though like it's like just common occurrence. You would not believe how many cases where they would have investigated or started an investigation and parents would make that child feel like crap. if they come and say, this is what happened. And sometimes, and of course, at that point, the case is harder to follow through it because then now the child may retract their story or they are threatened by the same parents. What's going
Listen,
on?
I know of situations where children have raised issues to people in authority. In some cases, like the Children Authority or the court or probation officers. And when they confronted the parents in terms of dealing with it, they totally sideline that child after in the home and so on. You know? So what we're actually doing is that we are pushing these children away. Then they go there, they find a false sense of hope and love and belonging with the wrong set of people who would lead them to all kind of promiscuous lifestyles, drugs, weapons, gang warfare. So when we fail to embrace, because let me tell you something, one of our responsibilities, we have to remember, is to groom our children. Eh?
That's right.
And to work with them. Because there's no child who's going to be perfect.
Right.
So let us work with them to help them to come out of those situations rather than push them towards it.
Your closing comments as we move forward and as we, you know, in terms of, because that woman that called there concerning her daughter, she is just, as a term I hear very often from you know, the principal of Something of the Girls about this, you know, the school environment is a microcosm of the macro.
Yeah, of the society.
Of the society. So what we heard there from that woman is just an example of what many other mothers may be going through at this point in time. And again, I know, you know, normally we focus so much on the young men, but I'm really glad we could have focused on the girls today. What general advice would you give to these mothers who are literally saying, I'm done, I'm fed up?
Well, one of the things I want to say to all parents, do not give up on your children, regardless of how bad people might classify them, regardless of how far you think they may have gone down the wrong road, there is still hope. There is potential inside of that child. And as a parent, your responsibility, regardless of how far they have gone, is to pull them back to a place where they could not only discover, but where they could achieve that potential.
Is there a script they can give them to hold on to?
But one of the things I want to tell parents is that keep your child in the presence of God. When God created man, he placed him in the presence. And I don't mean male man. When he created it, he placed him in the Garden of Eden, which was a representation of the presence of God. And if you keep your children there, we have allowed our children to go far away from the principles and the teaching of what God has ordained for us to be. And when we look around this entire world, not intentionally, we see the kind of crazy things they want to do with our children now. Keep your child. I want to encourage that mother, find a church in your area and take your child there. Train up your child. It's not too late for her.
And if they don't want, if she doesn't want to go, then you bring someone home to talk to her.
Train her up. Work with her. Don't give up. And as a mother, pray. There are a lot of mothers who tell you that the lives of their children was turned around because they spent a lot of time on their knees praying for their children.
Mr. Bedassie, always a pleasure indeed. I thank you for the comments and, of course, for the caller. If you can leave it, I'm not sure if she did. She did, so we could probably try and make contact with her as well.
My number is 322-0043. And we will try our best. We do not have all of the resources. We are a small organization, but we try to reach out to as many people as possible and to help them. Our thing is to save our young people.
All right, let's go to the number again as we close, 322-0043. That's 322-0043. Mr. Bedassie, thank you very much. And to the viewers, thank you, and God wish to bless you. Take care. Thanks again.